Joining me now, Jason Rantz, host of the Jason Rantz Show. Jason, good morning to you. As Robert was saying there, Lindsey Graham, a huge voice when it comes to U.S. foreign policy. What are the implications of losing a voice like that?
Oh, you're losing someone who was very consistent and unapologetic in his defense of our allies via military means. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He was very hawkish. As a senator, he was a staunch supporter of Israel at a time right now in which the country is losing some support. There's a rise of anti-Semitism in this country. And just as an American Jew, I always looked at Lindsey Graham and said, I'm glad he's in our corner. Obviously, as it relates to both what's going on between Ukraine and Russia and the United States and Israel and Iran. This is someone who is not scared to push forward for military strikes when he believes it's necessary. This is the kind of person who can be on the phone with Donald Trump, make that case and make it clear. And I think that without that voice, there's at least a little bit of questions, at least as it relates to Ukraine versus Russia, what the plan is going to be. I don't think policy changes in any meaningful way with Iran at this point. But again, he was someone who understood how to message this particular military action and what needed to be done, and he's going to be missed.
And his relationship with President Trump certainly in the spotlight this morning. Yeah. President Trump just this morning even reacting to the news of Senator Graham's death. Let's listen.
He was such an advocate. He was, if he wanted to get something, and, he had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
So Lindsey Graham and President Trump certainly became good friends. They became great allies, and Graham became an advisor for the president, but it wasn't always that way.
It wasn't always that way, but once that relationship was formed, I think that's what you hear about from most people about Lindsey Graham is that they trusted him. He was loyal. He wouldn't undercut them. He would disagree, obviously, and he certainly disagreed with the president. But once they became allies, he was that fighter on his behalf. And you would see him, obviously, on cable news almost daily making the case. And he was a passionate communicator, whatever the message was. And look, I'm not someone who agreed with Lindsey Graham on everything. He was a little bit too hawkish for my taste. But I understood where he was coming from, and I respected where he was coming from because I think he argued his cases in good faith. And when dealing with politicians, that's not always the case. They oftentimes act politically. And I never got the impression from Lindsey Graham, even when I disagreed, that he didn't actually believe in what it was he was pursuing.
We should also mention Vice President J.D. Vance also weighed in this morning on social media, weighing in on the loss, recounting the times he both fought with and worked with Graham, celebrating his bullishness, saying, quote, he fought like hell for the things he believed in, and he was just as willing to go to bat for you when it counted. Kind of to your point there, this was somebody who was fiercely loyal to President Trump and, his party. How big of a loss is this for President Trump, but also for the Republican Party?
Well, it's a huge loss no matter how you look at it. Lindsey Graham is irreplaceable. This is someone whose passion and loyalty was virtually unmatched. I think, obviously, when you're looking at the Senate at a time where it's not like Republicans have a ton of senators in power, things are going to move a little bit more slowly. You're going to have to see a little bit, perhaps more willing and dealing, particularly around the Save America Act. But, we can't ignore the context also of Mitch McConnell, who's in the hospital and unavailable for votes. And so that is going to come back and play a role. We'll see how quickly they can get a replacement named. This is someone who, South Carolina was never going to flip. Lindsey Graham was easily going to get reelected. Depending on who they, choose, does that put South Carolina a little bit more open to flip? Unlikely, but it's possible. So there's just some politics that are, unfortunately involved, even though it kind of feels gross a little bit to talk about the politics right now, given that he passed, but that's the reality of Washington.
Yeah, it's unfortunately almost impossible to ignore that fact of it, but I do hear you on speaking about the next steps and the timing of it so soon. Even still, I do want to talk about South Carolina. Of course, this is Lindsey Graham, a South Carolina native. He loved his state. This is somebody who, yes, he will be remembered, of course, for his stance and his voice when it comes to foreign policy. But South Carolina officials are even saying this morning that you can't forget his stance and his help when it also came to domestic policy, especially when it came to South Carolina.
Yeah, his passion for any of the issues that were foreign policy related was equally matched by his love of his own state and his advocacy on behalf of projects that would benefit his constituents. I mean, that is why he was so particularly popular, and it was such it was a given that he was going to get reelected past the primary. And that just goes to tell you what he stood for. I mean, I was thinking about this last night when I learned about it, and I've been hearing some people talk about, well, what about his family and his? I have no idea. I honestly don't know much about his personal life and his family outside of his sister, because he is the guy who is working 24/7. This is someone who legitimately gave his life to his country, serving his state tirelessly, going overseas just a few days ago at a time where, again, a lot of people weren't doing these kinds of trips. It makes it obviously more shocking, but it tells you how hard of a worker he was. And that advocacy on behalf of the party, the nation, and his state will be missed.
Lindsey Graham never married, never had children, but a man who served his country both in political office and in uniform. Jason Rantz, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.